Right, so we're going to make another table that looks exactly like this out of the wood on the right. Right, I need a table made out of this, but there isn't enough of this, and you can't get it anymore. So we have this, which is closer, it's a lot lighter. But yeah, we're going to try and make this finish on this piece of wood. So I'm going to run two tests. I've got a couple of different ideas for what finish I want, and both of them involve burning the pale wood to get it to that nice dark colour, and then wire brushing off different amounts of the char, and I've got a couple of different wax finishes to apply to it as well, so that's what we're going to do. Initial darkening of the wood done, I am going to apply these two different waxes to it. One's a neutral wax where it doesn't have any colour, but it will kind of pick out the burn tones that have been put into the wood with the fire, and the other one is a dark stain wax that will also stain the wood as well as enrich the colours from the burning. And here's the result of that. So we've got the one I'm aiming for to be on the right, and the two on the left are the ones I've made, and I was wondering which ones you guys feel better. Obviously I've already picked one by now, but still curious to see which you think was better. We're now moving on to making the new tabletop, and we're going to do what I've done before with using dowels and just using a right angle marker and marking down the middle of the wood with that. And I'm just going to do a couple of quick examples, and then we'll get on to gluing. And so with gluing, I just put a little dab of glue in the hole that I'm going to put the dowel into, then pop the dowels into the hole and give them a little tap with a hammer to make sure they're all in all the way down. And you know when they're in all the way down when the tone of the dowel changes. Then you want to get some wood glue and smear it all over the joint on both pieces of wood. This way you'll know that you'll have a complete bond between the two pieces of wood when they're joined together, and you won't have any gaps or voids that where the glue hasn't spread into when you squash them together with the clamps. Once you have all the boards glued and doweled and lined up, so that whenever you squash the boards together with the clamps, all the dowels go into all the holes without having to force themselves into or damage the wood either side of the hole. Once that's all in and clamped, you then want to make sure it's still flat, and then go and have a cup of tea. Now I've got the slab all made up, it's time to actually make it start looking like a table. So we're going to take off as much of the corners as is easily possible with a spoke shave. I would normally use my draw knife for this, but for some reason I don't think I could find it. Once you get the basic shape in there, even though it's a little rough and faceted, you can then use the belt sander to take off the remaining amount. Unless you have a really big roundover bit for a router, but as the biggest I have is 6mm, it was a little small for this project, so we're doing it manually with a shaving spoke shave and a belt sander. Okay, so I haven't shown you all of the sanding because it's boring, and therefore I've given the top of the slab a bit of a sand with a belt sander to try and make it as smooth as possible. I'm now going to go over it with the random orbital. I'm going to work my way up through the grit layers, so I probably started at 60 and then went up to 80, 120. I think I finished there because there's no point in making it perfectly smooth because we're going to set fire to it next. I'm not entirely sure why the customer wanted these big metal plates on the bottom of his tables, but he did, and he gave them to me to do it, so it was only 8 screws to put them on, and I believe it kind of helped hold the table flat when I was burning it, because obviously it changes shape a bit when you only burn one side of a table. So we're using a propane torch to burn the top of the table. I've only got a little one, so it took a little bit of time to do it, which probably didn't help with the changing shape of the table. I probably put a bit more heat into it than I needed to if I'd have had a bigger torch to burn the wood faster. So the most important thing to consider when doing this sort of process is to try and get the amount of burn even across the whole slab of the wood, which is easy enough if you've got uniform wood, but if you've got knots in the wood or different hardnesses of grain or whatever, it's a lot harder to do than just simply holding a flame against it. And so I was using the wire brush to knock the char back a bit as I was going, and I could see where some bits were lighter and some bits were darker. And then once I was happy with the level of burn, I then started to wax it, and the wax changed all the textures and colours again. But with the wax, if you wanted to, you could always go back and burn a little bit extra in the lighter areas if you wanted to, or you could just rub extra hard from a dark area to a lighter area, and it would kind of blend the two together. Then all I needed to do was attach the tabletop to the legs that were provided, and the table was done. And then you can see here the original piece of wood that I had to match to, and then the tabletop, which is of that pale construction pine wood that we started with, and how close I got the textures and finish of the table, which I'm really pleased with. But if you can think of a better way of doing this, then please remember to leave it in the comments below. And if you like seeing me make random things every week, then please remember to subscribe to the channel. And if you want to help the channel grow on YouTube a bit, then please remember to hit that like button as well, because it means that more people get to see the video. And I will get to see you next week, hopefully.